Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Home Ground, where the women's game feels personal and powerful. I am so excited to be back for another episode. I genuinely think I say that every single episode, but I'm just having so much fun doing this. And so I hope that you guys are enjoying listening. And if you're not, that's fine too. You don't have to listen. I'm still going to be here. This week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the WSL results over the weekend. And then we're also going to talk about NWSL playoffs and kind of what's going on there because we haven't touched on that at all. If you are watching on video, you'll notice I have on my NWSL Atlanta 2028 shirt. I am so excited. This is my whole personality now that Atlanta has announced that they are getting an NWSL team in 2028. I am so excited. Like nothing else about it has been announced except like where they're playing and the amount of money, which is going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is huge. Anyways, I'm going to keep talking about that. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not, but that's just a little update there. I'm loving it. I wore this shirt actually out to watch the semifinal Orlando versus Gotham, and so many people like came up to me and they were like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you so excited?" And I was like, "Yes, I am so excited." And I was watching that game with Meredith. Shout out Meredith, very loyal listener. And she had on the same shirt. She's also so excited. My friends and I are all founding members. Anyways, it's just so exciting. There is so much excitement in the city of Atlanta right now for the fact that we're getting an NWSL team. So it's going to be lovely. But that's not what this podcast is about. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about WSL results because they were interesting, especially like I said, as I say, especially at the top of the table, but technically it included the bottom of the table too. And then NWSL playoff stuff. And we'll get into it and discuss a little bit about the quarterfinals, even though at the point that you're listening to this, it will have been like almost 2 weeks ago. We'll do that. And then a little preview for the championship. And so we'll just kind of go from there. But there's one thing that I want to talk about first that has been the most like heartwarming thing for me. And that is Kaz Carney on Strictly Come Dancing, which, if you are a fellow American like I am, it's like the British version of Dancing with the Stars. I like forgot the name of it. Is my understanding. It seems to be like very, very similar. I can't watch it because my VPN gets blocked and I don't live in England. So that's annoying. But I like religiously will check as soon as they like post on social medias, Kaz's dance. I found Kaz through her podcast, actually. She has a podcast with Jill Scott. And I started listening to it during the Euros. I think they started it just like a couple of weeks before the Euros. I didn't really know Kaz Carney at all. She's a former Lioness, played for multiple WSL teams, including Arsenal, where she won the Champions League with them. She was a captain at Chelsea. Like she's been around. She was a fabulous footballer. She's been retired the whole time that I have been aware of her, but she was working in punditry at the Euros. She's like still around the game. And so she's on Strictly Come Dancing this season. And so there's been like a lot of talk about it on their podcast because she hasn't been there because she's been so busy like rehearsing and all the things. And so Jill's been talking a lot about it. So Jill Scott is potentially Kaz Carney's number one fan when it comes to Strictly Come Dancing. But the reason I want to talk about it this week is because Beth Mead came and saw her during the week as she was preparing for her dance. And I think this was put together as like the package, like talking about the week that she had like leading up to this dance. And it was just so sweet that interaction that they had because Beth had come to the live studio audience, I think like 2 weeks before that. She came with Lucy Bronze and watched Kaz dance. And there's like a lot of footage of Lucy and Beth being there. And you see after Kaz finishes the dance, like Lucy and Beth are like standing up clapping for her. And then Beth gives her like a big fist pump. And then in this interaction where Beth comes and sees her at her like practice dance studio, I don't actually know what it's called. I am not a dancer. Kaz, they're like talking about it. She's like, "Oh, you've been, but like you've come before." And Beth was like, "Oh, yeah, we had a great time." And then Kaz got like actually emotional about it. And she was like, "It was so special for me to have you guys there." She was like, literally started crying. And she was like, "To see you give me that like big fist pump really felt like I was like part of a team again. I had my girls there, like just meant so much to me." And I'm obsessed with it. I think that is so special. And Beth was like, of course, like once a lioness, always a lioness, like you are part of the team. And then Beth had like a little side interview where she talked about how she's like always looked up to Kaz and they, have only known each other since 2018, but like Beth has always looked up to her. She's been an important like soccer role model for her. And so I just thought that interaction was so cute. And then in the crowd that day were Leah Williamson and Kim Little. And Kaz had said previously that she was having a really, really rough day at rehearsal. And she had like texted Kim and was like, Kim, like, I need something. And Kim like dropped everything and went and like helped Kaz and got her what she needed. And so it's just so special to me to have to see those kind of relationships like continue to be so fruitful and powerful in all of these women's lives because I know that just being a fan of the game, I have made friends for life. That's really cool and I feel like a special sort of bond. I can hardly even imagine like the kind of bonds you forge when you are the players like in these teams. And so I just thought that was a really, really heartwarming thing that I saw. And then the other thing I want to talk about before we get into the WSL of it all is about Kristie Mewis. So I think I've said it on this before, but Kristie Mewis and Sam Mewis, they are sisters, the Mewis sisters, have a podcast now that's in under the women's game umbrella that they call Mewis Squared that releases on Fridays. It's not every Friday, but some Fridays periodically. And they just released an episode this past Friday and they talked a lot. Kristie went through her whole sort of IVF journey in its interaction with her football and her soccer playing. So while she was trying to get pregnant and like planning her pregnancy with her fiance, Sam Kerr, who also plays in the WSL, at the time she had injured her ACL and so she wasn't playing, but they are both professional footballers. But Kristie talked a lot about like how she wasn't sure if she should be telling her medical team at the club about this, but to do IVF, she was having to, for like 3 months, pump her body with progesterone and estrogen, which feels weird to not be telling your medical staff. And then she was like playing games still. Anyways, it's super interesting. And I thought it was so cool and so transparent of her to be like having that conversation. And a lot of what Sam was saying was like, we need more guidance for these people because Kristie's whole point was kind of like, yeah, people were giving me guidance, but at the end of the day, they were like, but it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. And she's like, and in some ways that's nice. And in other ways, if it was like, hey, this is what's best for you, that would have been helpful too, instead of me just having to like guess. Because she had like really bad morning sickness for the first like 16 weeks. But she was still, for the first 12 of those, showing up to practice every day and not able to tell anyone why she was so sick because of this cultural norm of not telling anyone you're pregnant until you're 12 weeks and all of that. So it was a really interesting conversation. And I think Sam brought up some really interesting points in like a heterosexual relationship versus a same-sex relationship, like how there's different dynamics of trying to avoid pregnancy and then the intentionality behind pregnancy and how that interacts with when like your body is your tool to do your job as it is for footballers, like what that looks like and kind of what role that plays and like when you tell your employer you're pregnant because generally, you would never tell your own employer you're pregnant at 5.5 weeks, but does your medical staff need to know? And they are technically like your employer or part of your employer, like the whole thing. So, really interesting. I would highly suggest listening to that episode. It was really, really good. And I had called Sam's voicemail and left her a message, and they actually played it and answered it. So, you'll also hear me there if you go listen to it. So, that was just like funny. That's not actually why I was promoting the episode, but I thought I should drop that in. Anyways, let's get into the WSL results of the weekend. And I've noticed that I really only talk about the top four teams. That's because that's the only teams that I really know anything about. And I don't want to try to talk about things that I have no business talking about because I don't think that does anybody any favors. That is a thing that I'm trying to address, getting to know some of the other teams better. But as has I've seen all over social media, they're playing all of the women's games like at the same time. So you can't just kind of like sit and have a whole WSL day and like watch a bunch of different teams. You have to like choose the team that you want to watch play. I think there were like four games at noon England time, 7 a.m. my time. There were like four games at that time. And I watched the second half of Chelsea versus Liverpool. Like I could only watch one game. And then Arsenal played at 9:30 my time, which must have been what, like 2:30 their time. And then the Manchester Derby was on Saturday, so I did watch that. But we'll start with the Chelsea game. So this feels like a big deal. Chelsea tied Liverpool 1-1. Crazy because Chelsea is second in the table and everybody thinks it's kind of like their title to lose. I think everybody expected Chelsea to win the league pretty handily. And they are sitting second in the table behind Man City. They were going into the weekend 1 point behind Man City. And then they tied Liverpool. And if you're paying attention to the WSL, Liverpool had only gotten 1 point out of the previous 8 games that they had played. So they have not won a game yet. They actually got their first point the weekend before in a draw. And then they came in and they drew arguably one of the best teams in the world. Chelsea has players, firepower like you would not believe. And Chelsea's goal came within the first 10 minutes. It was either in like the 7th minute or the 9th minute. And it was honestly a moment of like individual brilliance by Alyssa Thompson, which I think gets to something that I probably don't have a lot of business talking about, but I think this is a thing that's happening to Arsenal as well, where the goals that we're seeing from Chelsea and Arsenal are really just moments of like individual brilliance. We're not seeing like the kind of like team goals that you're seeing out of like Barcelona and Lyon and even like Bayern Munich to an extent. Man City had some gorgeous team goals over the weekend. Some individual brilliance too, of course, but like they're more team goals than just somebody just like randomly like pulling something out of nowhere kind of thing. And so crazy that Chelsea ended up drawing Liverpool. It's not that they didn't have chances to score, they just didn't. Couple of interesting things. I think they extended their record to 34 games unbeaten. I think that record was broken by them like several weeks ago, and so they just keep like re-breaking their own record as they continue. So that happened. Additionally, like I said, Alyssa Thompson scored. She's continuing to thrive at Chelsea. She's played in 4 games. She's had 4 goal contributions, been involved 4 goal involvements, I think is how you say that. I think she's had 2 goals and 2 assists or something like that. Doing great. I mean, she looks so good. She is just dominating at the moment. And as a U.S. Women's National Team fan, I'm very happy about that. As an Arsenal fan, I'm annoyed, but that's okay. I want Alyssa Thompson to do well because I want the U.S. Women's National Team to do well. And I think it's good for the sport too, to have these like really fun, young, bright players coming through. Additionally, in that game for U.S. Women's National Team fans, Naomi Girma subbed in at halftime for Millie Bright, which is interesting because Millie Bright is the captain of Chelsea, has been for a couple of years now. At least she was last year as well. But she got subbed off at halftime, and Naomi Girma came in next to Natalie Bjorn, and they played most of the second half together. And then Lucy Bronze came on for Natalie Bjorn, and then it was a Naomi Girma Lucy Bronze center back pairing. Naomi Girma, I think, is still working back to full fitness. I don't know if she's played a full 90 yet. She might have in the Champions League game. She might have gone a full 90 on Wednesday, but I don't remember. Or when did they play? Wednesday. Yeah, I think they played on Wednesday. Anyways, Naomi Girma is getting back to full fitness, and once they figure out what they're doing with her, they're just going to get better and better. Naomi Girma is incredible. Other thing about Millie Bright is she did set the record and will continue to now break her own record for most WSL games played. She and Jordan Nobbs were tied at 210 from a couple weeks ago, and now she played her 211th game, which is a lot of WSL games. So that's a really impressive record. Something else that came out of that game that don't love and I find really interesting and seems a little bit out of character. I'd say this like I know her personally. I don't. Sonia Bonpastor, the coach of Chelsea, did not do a post-game press conference after that. Not loss. Felt certainly to them like felt like a loss because they shouldn't in no way be tying Liverpool, especially as they're playing Barcelona this week. But they did. And so Sonia did not do a post-match interview, which I just think is really interesting. Obviously, she was pissed. I think she had every right to be pissed. Her team did not perform. They did not play well. But like, does that mean that you don't go to the post-match interview? I feel like if that happened in the NWSL, there'd be like fines and stuff. I don't know if that exists in the WSL, but like journalists and people stay behind. It's part of their job to get information from you so that they can write about it. It's part of your job as a coach to do those kinds of things. Again, I get the emotions were probably high and she just avoided it so she didn't say something crazy, which part of me can respect. And part of me is like, you still have to show up and do your job. Like your team didn't do their job and you're mad about it. So then you're not going to show up and do your job. I just feel like that doesn't say the right thing. I also feel like part of me is missing the chaos of Emma Hayes. Because I feel like after games where she felt like her team didn't perform, she said some of the crazy things or gave her poems after she fought Jonas Eidevall. And we haven't gotten any of that because she's with the U.S. Women's National Team now, and she's like not, I don't know, Emma Hayes. But yeah, that was a really interesting result that I don't think anybody really saw coming. I think there were some jokes that it might happen, but like not nobody actually thought that was going to happen. And also, this is the second game in a row that Chelsea's been winning and then ended up tied, which for a top side like that, you wouldn't expect that to happen. They did it against Arsenal, and then they also did it against Liverpool. Interesting. I'm keeping an eye on what Chelsea's doing. So, yeah. Next game that we'll talk about is Man City versus Manchester United. So, the first Manchester derby of the year was over the weekend. They played on Saturday at the Etihad Stadium, which is Man City's stadium. And Man City beat United 3-0, which I don't think was like completely unexpected. Like I don't think that that's like a shocking result, but I do think that it's a little bit surprising. I would have thought it would have been a closer game. Derbies are always intense games. There were some beautiful goals I alluded to a little bit earlier. Some of them were team goals. Like there was this gorgeous run of play. That's not what I want to say. There was this gorgeous like passage of play where Jade Rose, an outside back, like just intercepted the ball, stormed up the field, perfect pass out wide. I guess maybe Jade Rose isn't an outside back. I don't really know where she plays because she passed the ball to Kirsten Kasperai, who's their right back, captain of the team while Alex Greenwood is out. Perfect ball up to Kirsten Kasperai. Kirsten, like one touch pass, crossed it in. I believe it was a one touch cross in, like directly into Bunny Shaw's like stride. Bunny Shaw, like one touch into the goal, like this far in front of the keeper. It was gorgeous. Like that whole play was just so good. It was so well done, fun to watch, very exciting. And it's exciting that Bunny Shaw is back scoring goals. She is such a prolific goal scorer and she just like does the thing. And so it's really fun to see her back scoring goals after she was out injured a significant portion, at least half of last season. So that's really exciting. Lauren Hemp is also back. She has been out with a like ankle injury. She played, she had a screamer of a goal from outside the box, which was really cute to hear her talk about after the game. She's like, I've been really practicing this, really working on this. So it was exciting to see that pay off for her. Gorgeous left foot, like into the upper corner. It was beautiful. You should watching the highlights of this game would be really entertaining, I think. Kirsten Kasperai, who I already mentioned, has been captaining the side since Alex Greenwood has been out. Just continues to impress. I think she looks like the best right back in the WSL right now, which says a lot considering Lucy Bronze and Emily Fox both play in the WSL and are two of my favorite players right now. Kirsten's on the list as well. And she's also just somebody you want to get behind. She supports the right things. She says the right things. She was speaking out about the weird Sky Sports channel that was on TikTok that is now down because it was like super like patronizing towards women. It was wild. She spoke out about that. She's a huge advocate for the LGBTQ plus community and our trans siblings and all of those things. And so we just love Kirsten. And then Viv Miedema is back doing Viv Miedema stuff. I feel like it took her a while to get back from the ACL and get her confidence back. Then she left Arsenal and went to City, struggled last year with some injuries as well. Then I think we saw her coming back in the Euros, like back to Viv stuff, scored her 100th goal for the Netherlands at the Euros. And then this weekend was just like had this huge defensive tackle and then kept the ball and had a beautiful pass that like right between the defenders ended up not resulting in a goal, but it was just gorgeous. And so it's exciting to see such a fantastic footballer like back doing her thing. Interestingly, in that game, Man United did not have a single shot on target. So I don't know what to say about that. There's a lot of talk about the fact that Fallon Tullis-Joyce, the American goalkeeper for Manchester United, is out. She got a facial injury against Aston Villa the weekend before. They hadn't said what it was. She was out for their midweek game when they played PSG. So a young goalie who has come through the academy, whose name is now escaping me, stepped in and played that game, had a huge save in the second half, like played really well, started again in the Manchester Derby, which talk about two huge games to have your first two games. They played for United, they played at Old Trafford, and it was the first Champions League game, Women's Champions League game to ever be played at Old Trafford. And she was there playing in it, and it was her first game at Old Trafford, like crazy. And it was Mary Earp's return to United. There's just like a lot going on there. Huge game to play in, played great. United won 2-1. And then over the weekend, to be playing at the Etihad at, in the Manchester Derby, like incredible for her. I think she played great. I don't think any of the goals were like her fault. And I think some people were trying to say like maybe if they had Valentellis Joyce because of her like distribution and just like overall confidence that the team would have in her back there, that it might have been different. I don't know if that's true. I thought the Manchester United goalie did great. And she's young and sweet. And I'm just excited for her. Turns out Valentellis Joyce has like a fractured eye socket or something to that effect. And now I can't remember what it is, but very sad. They said she'll be out for a few weeks, which means that she probably isn't going to be able to go with the U.S. Women's National Team, which I think is a blow for the U.S. Women's National Team. They're just friendlies right now. There's time before any major tournament, and so it's okay. But like, I just want to see Valentellis Joyce in with that team constantly because I love it. So I think that's all I have to say about the Manchester Derby. It was a very exciting game. Would be worth a rewatch if you're looking for a game to rewatch. Otherwise, I would watch the highlights. You'll see Viv doing her thing, Kirsten doing her thing. Like it was just really fun to watch. There was another derby this weekend that I'm much less excited to talk about, and that was the North London Derby where Arsenal played Tottenham at Tottenham, and they tied 0-0. And it was like not a good game to watch. I think even as a neutral, like it just like wasn't good from any angle. I think the only good thing really in that game was Olivia Smith. She did not start the game. She came on in the probably like 55th minute for Beth Mead, and she was this like burst of energy, spark. She was fabulous. Interesting things happened. Kyra Cooney-Cross started for the first time this season. That might be a lie. First time in a while in the like defensive midfielder position because Kim Little is still out with her injury. Um, and Arsenal looked frustrated from the beginning. Looked like they were like arguing with each other. Like there's just no chemistry. And I think it's one of those things where like when there's a team and things like aren't going well, then like everything is a problem. And they just need to get like having fun again, is what I keep saying. I also think at what point do we just scrap it and try something new because we keep trying the same thing and it's not working? You could argue that like a draw against Chelsea is fine, but they lost midweek to Bayern 3-2 after going up 2-0 in the first half and then keeping it that way until like the 60th minute. Bayern scored and then they scored two more times like after the 80th minute or something. Like it was so frustrating to watch. Bayern's a good team. Again, I don't think like objectively a 3-2 loss away at Bayern is necessarily a bad thing, but it's the manner in which it happened that is the problem for me. And so I don't know what the answer is. And I think if there was an easy answer, then like obviously they would be doing it. But with Leah still out and Kim out, I think we're lacking leadership in the Arsenal squad because their two like leaders are not on the pitch. And I just feel like the chemistry just isn't there. They don't look like they're having fun. They don't look like they're having a good time. And I just hear so many footballers talk about how they play their best when they are having fun, feeling free, just like being able to play. And when everything's going wrong, you make like one bad pass and it like feels like the end of the world, like all of these things. And so I think it's just this like spiral. I think they need a good win and they'll be back on track and it'll help with the morale. They play Real Madrid in the week, so we'll see how that goes. Real Madrid is a good team as well. So we'll see. I think people are asking a lot of questions about the coaching staff at Arsenal. I don't think getting rid of Renee is the answer. I think they need to do something in the January transfer window. I think something big, like three or four big signings, because they won the Champions League and then they got like we got Taylor Hines, which is a She's a solid defender, but she's like a just like a squad defender, somebody you want to have in. She's like a solid player. I like that signing. Olivia Smith, who we spent $1 million on, or £1 million on. I don't actually know which one. But either way, great signing. She's fabulous. And we got a backup goalkeeper. Also great, which we clearly need right now because Manu tore ACL. But I just feel like there had to be more than that after winning the Champions League. And so now they're like down and out at the moment, and they will be fighting not to win the league, but fighting for Champions League play for next season to finish third in the league, top three in the league. And so I think they need to have a big January. I think they need a six, and I think they need a center back, and I think they need Georgia Stanway. So I just think they need to get all of my favorite players on their team, and I don't think that that's too much to ask. I want Sam Coffey out of Portland. I want Georgia Stanway out of Bayern. I want Trinity Rodman out of the Washington Spirit, which we'll get into that in a minute. And then I want them to sign one or two center backs. Like, I don't feel like I'm asking too much. Feels totally reasonable, totally realistic for me to ask for them to have that kind of January. So there we go. Claire Wheatley, is that even her name? The like sporting director or whatever? Give me a call because I think we should do it. Okay. There was another derby this weekend, not in the WSL. Barcelona beat Real Madrid 4-0 in El Clasico. It was really all Barca the whole time. They scored 2 goals in the first half, looked pretty dominant. Real Madrid did have a couple of opportunities. They had at least one goal that got called back. So did, I think Barca had 2 goals that got called back, one for offside, one that they called a handball, which on Ava Pior, which I don't actually think was a handball. I don't feel like there was that good of an angle for it to be overturned. Seemed to hit like this kind of area of her, but it wasn't clear that it was her arm. The goal was called back. So they would go, and then it was 2-0 until the end of the game. So it wasn't like embarrassing for Real Madrid. And then in the 90 plus one, there was a goal. And then in the 90 plus three, Aitana Bonmati scored. So then it got to be 4-0, like right at the end. So, anyways, that was that game. That was fun to watch too. Barcelona is just so fun to watch. And I went from watching Barcelona to then watching the NWSL, which have just so distinctly different styles of play that it was like jarring. I was like, what is going on here? The NWSL felt so chaotic for the first like 10 minutes. And it was a little bit more chaotic than usual, I think. But it really felt, I was like, what is going on here? So there's that. Let's talk NWSL a little bit. So the quarterfinals were not this past weekend, but the weekend before. Orlando Pride beat the Seattle Reign 2-0. I actually didn't get a chance to watch that game, so I won't comment on it. Washington Spirit beat Racing Louisville on penalties. Aubrey Kingsbury knows how to show up and stop penalties. Her stats are like ridiculous for her saves in penalty shootouts. I think she's only allowed in like 30% of the penalties taken against her, like something ridiculous. I might have just made that up. I didn't just make it up. I heard the stat, but I didn't then like recheck it before just now saying it on the podcast. I don't know. Gotham beat Kansas City 2-1 with a last minute goal from Katie Stengel, and that was gorgeous. That was a fun game to watch. Kansas City was the 1 seed, Gotham was the 8 seed. That was a big upset. Gotham did not appreciate being called the underdog. Jaden Shaw has a very funny quote in her like press conference after the game. She was like, "Sorry, but like underdog's my ass. Like Gotham is not the underdog ever." So, yeah, Jane Shaw is just doing so well for Gotham. What a brilliant $1.25 million they spent getting her to Gotham from North Carolina. She just won't get into that when we get to the semis. And then the other quarterfinal, Portland Thorns beat San Diego Wave 1-0. A goal from Riley Tiernan. No, what? That was a crazy thing for me to say. Riley Tiernan plays for Angel City. That was funny. From Raylan Turner, she's the one who scored. I don't know why that just came out of my mouth. The same initials, but like just like not the same. So that was really exciting. It was a nice goal team kind of situation. So that was exciting. In the semifinals, Washington Spirit beat Portland Thorns 2-0. It felt much less close than that. I'll be really honest. I wanted the Thorns to win. I'm a big Mackenzie Arnold fan and a huge Sam Coffey fan. She should go to Arsenal if I haven't said that 65,000 times. Here I am saying it again. That is satire because I know that I just said it 5 seconds ago. Okay. So I wanted them to do well, but it was all Washington Spirit the whole time. And then it was just I think that the way that the two goals happened were unfortunate because Portland was defending quite well, I think. It seemed like Washington Spirit had the ball the whole time, had all the chances, were dominating, felt like they were going to win the whole time, but it was they scored the first goal on a transition off a set piece, and then they scored the second goal off a just unfortunately very poor back pass from Sam Hyatt, who tried to pass the ball back to Mackenzie Arnold, just didn't get enough on it. Mackenzie Arnold like tried to come out and get to it. She was well outside of her box and she just like tried to swing her leg and get it, but Croy Bethune got there before her and just kind of whoop, went around her. And people are trying to blame that on Mackenzie Arnold. She's not an outfield player, so she like doesn't know how to defend that kind of thing. And like it was the back pass that was the problem. Could potentially have Mackenzie Arnold done better, maybe, but like I don't know. She did what she could. And otherwise, like what you gonna do? Foul her? She's the last defender, then she gets a red card. Then if they do end up winning, then she can't play in the final. Like she didn't have a choice there, really, in my opinion. Anyways, so Washington Spirit won. They're a fun team to watch. Trinity Rodman made her return post MCL sprain, which is very exciting. With purple hair. Oh, I love it. She looks so good. And it very much is reminiscent of Shadow Allison. She's the one who sent this to me. Picture of Megan Rapinoe with her purple hair. Like it's giving the same kind of vibe. And I loved it. So shout out purple hair Trin. We are a big fan over here. Then in the other semifinal game, Gotham beat Orlando 1-0 with a last minute free kick goal from none other than Jaden Shaw herself. And then I thought that was crazy. That was in, I think they were going to play like 6 minutes of stoppage time, is what the like fourth official signaled. And it was the foul got called at like 95-30 or something like that. Like I was like, oh, this is going to be like the last kick of the game. Jaden Shaw scores. It was gorgeous free kick. Jaden and Rose both standing over Rose, left-footed, Jaden right-footed. They were just trying to see kind of how everybody lined up. Jaden ended up taking it, but what happened was Midge Purce made a great run, and Anna Morehouse, the Orlando goalie, I think thought that Midge was going to get a toe on it, so she didn't dive because she was waiting for Midge to like redirect it and then was going to try to dive that way. But Midge missed or intentionally missed, or I don't know. Midge did not touch it and it went right in, and it was too late for her to dive. And it was just stunning, gorgeous. It had the perfect pace on it. It bounced like right where the keeper was, and that's like a really, or right in front of where the keeper was, so that's like really hard. It was gorgeous. Jaden Shaw, like freaking take a bow. But then they kept playing for another like minute and a half, and I don't remember who, but somebody on Gotham committed a foul in their own half, giving an Orlando free kick. And like at literally, this was the last play of the game. They send the ball in, a really nice header by one of the Orlando players, and Ann-Katrin Berger, of course, has this huge save, like gorgeous. And then the final whistle went. It was insane. And Katrin Berger is just so good. Jaden Shaw is so good. Gotham is quite good. I think the final is going to be really, really fun, and I can't wait. I'm going to get to watch it with my friends. I'm so excited. I will be watching the final with friends of the pod, Laura and Allison, together, all of us in the same city. It's going to be so fun. I am jazzed about it. So the final is Washington Spirit versus New York, New Jersey, Gotham at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, November 22nd. They're playing at PayPal Park, which is BayFC's home stadium, which is in San Jose, California. So it's a neutral site far away from both of these teams' fan bases. So I'll be intrigued to see kind of like what the atmosphere is like. But I'm so excited about that. And there are just a couple of things I want to talk about really quickly that came out of these quarterfinal and semifinals that I just think are fun and very like NWSL focused, which I feel like I haven't been doing quite as much of, and it's getting to the end of the season. So, but one of the things that I noticed is I think Esme Morgan is like America's sweetheart. or at least Washington Spirit sweetheart, they love her. The team loves her. They appear to be such a close-knit team. So that's really fun and cute. But also like the fan base, like she got up into like the part of the stadium where the person who's like leading all of the like chants and cheers and songs or whatever stands at the end of the game, and she was like waving a flag. Like it was a whole thing that she did, just celebrating with the fans. They love her. NWSL, I think, broadly loves her. We are so happy to have Esme Morgan in the NWSL, and she has just like unlocked her potential in a way that I don't know would have ever happened in the WSL. So I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy that so many people love her here and that she's playing so well. And I really think that's why she was able to get so much playing time in the Euros with England, much more than she, has traditionally gotten, because she's really like leveled up her game, playing in the WSL and can defend the transition really well and those kinds of things that exist a lot more in the WSL than they do in other leagues. So that is fun and cute. The other thing that happened, also Washington Spirit related, was after the game, there had been all kinds of like interviews, City of the Media and stuff like on the field, but the Washington Spirit were taking like a team photo with everyone. It had all of the like staff, all the players, everybody, but their coach was still doing a TV interview, and Trinity literally like got up, ran over, interrupted on like live television and was like, I'm so sorry. We need to take a team picture and we need our coach. He's a great coach. We're a great team. Like, go Spirit. And just took him with her and just ran back over to the team. He like laid across the front, took the picture. It was so cute. Like, and I just respect that so much. And it reminds me of like Chloe Kelly and Leah Williamson after the Euros in 22 being in interviews and then having their favorite song come on, or that was this year's Euros when Leah's favorite song came on, but Leah saying like, I just want to go celebrate with my team, and like left the interview. Same with Chloe Kelly. I think Sweet Caroline came on or something like that while she was doing an interview, and she was just like, I gotta go with my team, and just like ran over. Like, I just love those kinds of things, and it just shows how close knit a team is and how important it is to like celebrate with each other. Again, like they haven't won anything yet. It was just a semifinal, but I just think that kind of stuff is so cute and I love it. Um, Talking about the other semifinal, before the game, there was some beef on Twitter going on because Marta, who I guess like hasn't been on Twitter in like years, reactivated her Twitter, or like got back on for the first time to subtweet. Do people even say that anymore? McCall Zerboni, is that even her name? She was on a podcast and she used to play for Gotham, and then she was, talking about the Gotham Orlando game, and she was like, Orlando has 1 star. Gotham is full of stars, and was like throwing shade at Orlando and saying that like Gotham was going to easily win the game. Not necessarily easily, but she was like, Gotham should definitely be the favorite. Like Orlando only has 1 star, talking about Marta, which I just feel like is not true. So it's kind of like a weird take anyways. And so then Marta like went on Twitter and said something about how like, some players who retire and then go do podcasts or punditry, etc., do really well. And others are just average or like something to that effect. And then put like hashtag MZ or something, which is like her initials. I think it was like funny. And so that was like happening. And Marta loves a little like social media banter kind of thing going on. Like it happened last year when I think Portland beat Orlando to like end their like undefeated streak, and they were like posting about it on social media, and then Marta like commented and was like, good luck fighting to qualify for the playoffs, like that kind of stuff. I just think it's funny, and it's like lighthearted, and I don't know how lighthearted Marta's was this time, but she was defending her team and I respect that. And like it's playoffs, it's chaos. Throw a little drama in. Like, I think it's fun. Nobody's like actually getting hurt here. Like, everyone will be okay. Also, some stuff came out about Jaden Shaw in an interview that she did where she said something to the effect of like, because they were asking like how she, because she settled in really, really well at Gotham. And I think the question was about like you've really settled into this team. Like, can you tell us a little bit about how your transition's been or like something to that effect? And she was like, yeah, like I love playing here. I can play free. I don't feel like if I make like one bad pass, I'm gonna get like ripped off the field and screamed at, which seemed to be alluding that that was happening to her at a previous club or clubs. And so then people were like asking questions about what happened at North Carolina because she wasn't getting any playing time and all of that. And so there was some like stuff going on there. But that was that. And then the other thing that was all over my social media during the semifinal was talking about Trinity Rodman because her contract is up at the end of the year. And her agent has shared that like their negotiations with the Washington Spirit and other NWSL clubs kind of stalled because he's directly negotiating with the NWSL because of the salary cap, because Washington Spirit can't offer Trinity more money because they're at the salary cap for the team. And so they like have no way to negotiate with her to like get her to stay. They've been in talks with reportedly three WSL clubs because they have no salary cap in the WSL, so they can pay whatever they want to pay. And so, which is probably much more. And this is a trend that we're seeing. Alyssa Thompson going over there, Naomi Girma going over there, like Emily Fox going over there. I don't know if at the time Emily Fox started making a bunch more money, but there's certainly the ceiling is way higher there because there is no ceiling technically compared to there is always a ceiling in the NWSL because of the league rules regarding salary cap. And I don't think they're going to budge on it. I don't think it's going anywhere because they made a statement that said like we strongly believe that the salary cap is what makes the NWSL such a good league. That's why our quarterfinals were as close as they were because we have the salary cap, we have parity amongst the league, like all of this stuff. So, I don't think they're going to do anything about it. And I think we're going to continue to lose stars who can go make more money elsewhere. And until the NWSL is willing to like do something about that, we might have the most like equal league and like might be the most competitive league, arguably, maybe, but we're going to lose all of the stars who can go make more money in the WSL or in Germany or in France. Like it's not just the WSL that can pay more. There are other strong leagues that will pay them more. And at a time where women's football still isn't at a point where these women are making like millions of dollars and enough to like retire on, they're going to make as much money as they can while they're playing. And I don't blame them. I wish we could keep them in the NWSL because I think the NWSL is a fun league and I want it to stay a fun league and I want to keep the stars. But with the salary cap the way that it is, like we're just going to continue to lose them to leagues that can pay them more. And I can't blame them. Like I don't feel like we can ask them to do anything different, the individual players. I think we can ask the league to adjust and figure out a way to like make it work. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I have to say today. I feel like this was a kind of chaotic episode. I was all over the place, but chaotic things happened over the weekend. But then over American Thanksgiving week, we have international window. So I don't even know. I know England's playing at Wembley one of the days. I don't even know who's playing who. I haven't even looked that far ahead. There's been so many things going on. So I will have a lots more on all of that to come. I'm going to get to see two of my friends who I've met through this lovely world of women's soccer, who, if you've been following along with the pod, you have also met Laura and Allison. And we're going to do our best to record a live, not a live podcast, but like all three of us together in the same room. We're going to try. The timing's going to potentially be a little tight, so it might not work. So I'm not promising anything, but we are going to try because I think it would be really fun. And it's going to be like a silly episode. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we can get it done. And then, yeah. Anyways, please make sure that you are following us on social media, subscribed on YouTube. I don't know what it's called, following on Spotify or subscribed or whatever it is. And like comment, let me know what you like, what you don't like. Send me DMs on Instagram or TikTok. I will look at them. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your week.